listening to the Fringianity Underground podcast, fringe topics with a Christian point of view. Now here's your host, Leo Rutledge. Welcome to the show. Today's episode is really about the persecution of Christians around the world and how it's basically coming to America and how we need to really prepare for this. I've covered this subject before, and I'll probably cover it again, but it's just a subject that I feel passionate about, and I don't see anybody really talk about it, or no one really researches it or seems to care. And the media in America seems to just kind of just look over it. Our media in America doesn't really say the word Christian too often, and they don't point out when they say that there is terrorist activity and the terrorists are killing people, they have stopped actually mentioning the Christians are the people that they're killing. They're really looking to kill Christians, and for some reason that gets left out because they don't want to make any religion distinct and stand out because, people might care if it's one specific thing being picked out of a group, So anyway, I just wanted to get back into this. This is kind of the foundation of the Fringianity Underground originally, so I'm going back to the basics here on this episode. So with that, let's begin the show.
I once put it rather pungently, and I was flattered that the British Foreign Secretary repeated this, as follows. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. It is easier to kill than to control. And of course, that bears directly on the use of force.
Quotes by elites in their own words. Yes, many people will die when the New World Order is established, but it will be a much better world for those who survive. Henry Kissinger. No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation. David Spangler.
Breaking news tonight on the ugly campaign against more than 1 million Christians in the Middle East. The terror group ISIS is now
The attention of the world was captured in early June 2014 when the relatively unknown jihadist militant group, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or now simply referred to as the Islamic State, or IS, entered Iraq and seized control of Mosul, the second most populated city in the nation. They immediately gained a reputation for extreme violence, fear, and intimidation. Their stated goal is to establish a caliphate or Islamic nation across the Middle East, parts of Europe and Africa, and placing all the people living in the region under their direct political control and subject them to Islamic law. IS originally entered Iraq from Syria, which is where Amnesty International identified 7 facilities IS is using to torture people in an 18-page report they released recently. They documented the torture of children as young as 8 and used methods such as flogging, electric shock, and painful stress positions. Once IS entered Iraq, they began robbing and stealing from schools and banks, kidnapping university students, randomly sniping people in public, and shutting off the electricity and water. Posters in Mosul are demanding families bring their unmarried girls to participate in sex jihad, demanding that they have sex with the IS terrorists. And the self-proclaimed leader of IS, al-Baghdadi, is ordering the female genital mutilation of 2 million Iraqi girls to, quote, distance them from debauchery and immorality. Children as young as 9 and 10 are being recruited to fight for the Islamic State.
As ISIL has marched across Iraq, it has waged a ruthless campaign against innocent Iraqis. And these terrorists have been especially barbaric towards religious minorities, including Christian and Yazidis, a small and ancient religious sect. Countless Iraqis have been displaced, and chilling reports describe ISIL militants rounding up families, conducting mass executions, and enslaving Yazidi women. In recent days, Yazidi women, men, and children from the area of Sinjar have fled for their lives. And thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, are now hiding high up on the mountain with little but the clothes on their backs. They're without food, they're without water, people are starving, and children are dying of thirst.
Hatred for Christianity and Christians is evidenced with the destruction of ancient biblical artifacts, the detonation of what is believed to be the tomb of Old Testament prophet Jonah, and the burning down of Christian churches throughout the region. An ultimatum was issued for all Christians in the region to convert to Islam, pay a tax, or be killed. Similar to the Nazis marking the homes of Jews during the Holocaust with the Star of David, IS terrorists are painting the letter N on the homes of Christians, signifying that they are Nasara, the word for Christian, so that those families are marked for death. As a result, every single Christian in Mosul and many other communities have left, completely emptying entire regions of Christians after calling it home for nearly 2,000 years. 1,700, mostly Christians, are believed to have been murdered in the ancient biblical region of Nineveh, and the United Nations is reporting over 2,000 innocents have been massacred in just the first 2 weeks of their surge into Iraq. This happens to be double the number of deaths being reported as of late July in Gaza from Israeli rockets, yet there is nowhere near the international condemnation by comparison. How is it that a jihadist militant group could just walk in and take control of entire areas of Iraq? In order to understand the answer, we must look at the historical context. The U.S. government planned prior to September 11, 2001 to invade Iraq, even while many analysts and world leaders understood full well it would descend Iraq into chaos, creating a vacuum for radical Islamists to take power. In fact, Al-Qaeda or IS never even existed in Iraq prior to the U.S. invasion of 2003. Retired General Wesley Clark learned about the plan directly from the architects before we were led into the war.
This country was taken over by a group of people with a policy coup. Wolfowitz and Cheney and Rumsfeld, and you could name a half dozen other collaborators from the Project for a New American Century. They wanted us to destabilize the Middle East, turn it upside down, make it under our control.
Where did IS come from? And where does it get the money, weapons, and training to take over entire nations? This is an important question because whoever is supporting this group is just as guilty in the crimes being committed. And this question is rarely, if ever, asked by the corporate media, probably because the answer is deeply disturbing.
Now President Obama is arming Islamic rebels in Syria. The vast majority of Christians in Syria, though, are on the opposite side of the war. We are arming Islamic rebels that are intent on killing Christians.
IS is in fact a creation of the Central Intelligence Agency, as it is being reported by Beirut-based pan-Arab TV station Al Mayadeen, who interviewed former top Al-Qaeda commander Nabil Naim. This admission is only corroborated with a document leaked by NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, revealing that the leader of IS, al-Baghdadi, is an intelligence asset and in fact was at one time in U.S. custody, yet released from prison in 2009 by the Obama administration. IS is run out of the U.S. Embassy in Turkey and getting its money from the United States and their allies in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait. Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor to President Obama, admitted to CNN, we are openly funding these groups.
That's why the United States has ramped up its support for the moderate, vetted opposition, providing lethal and non-lethal support where we can to support both the civilian opposition and the military opposition.
Will we see training of those
We're continuing to ramp that up, as the President indicated at West Point, and we want to work with Congress to be able to do that.
More disturbing is that there is a bill in the Senate to allocate an additional $250 million to these groups, and President Obama has asked Congress on July 24th for an additional $500 million for what he calls moderate Syrian rebels. Obama may call them moderate Syrian rebels, but whatever you call them, it doesn't change the reality that IS is one of those Syrian rebel groups, and even if the funds were given to another one, there is no assurance that the money would not flow back to IS.
It's hard to argue that the Syrian rebels that you will be arming are not associated forces of al-Qaeda. Are they not fighting on the same side of a war? Can you argue there's no connection between them? I think it's impossible to say that the Syrian rebels are not associated with al-Qaeda. So there is a great irony that you will be arming forces that a normal common sense use of the word associated can say that these people are associated with al-Qaeda.
The U.S. military trained Islamic State terrorists at a secret base in Jordan and used the CIA to airlift arms and munitions to them from Croatia. Officials within the Iraqi government called President Obama an accomplice to the crimes being committed because he was aware of the training, yet did nothing to stop it. One of the more tragic aspects of this entire development in Iraq isn't necessarily the genocide being waged on the Iraqi Christians, but the fact that America and most of the world is silently standing by, allowing this to continue.
I believe what is happening to the Christian community in Iraq is genocide. I also believe it is crime against humanity. Where is the West? Where is the Obama administration? Where is this Congress? The silence is deafening. The West, particularly the church, needs to speak out. The Obama administration needs to make protecting this ancient community a priority.
So what can we do right now? Number one, we can pray. Pray that the hearts of those committing the atrocities will have their hearts changed and turn away from evil. Number two, inform others. Unless we the people force the issue out in the open, we will never have the chance of stopping the genocide. Share this video. Show solidarity with the Iraqi people by using the hashtag #WeAreN and posting the N as a symbol of your solidarity with the persecuted in Iraq. Number three, sign the White House petition demanding that the Obama administration stop financing and supporting these groups and enforce sanctions specifically on the Islamic State so that their capabilities to wage violence are eliminated. Number four, lastly, the survivors, the refugees of this crisis, are desperately in need of basic survival supplies like food, water, and mattresses. Together we can help. Rather than asking you to donate money,